licensed clinical social worker. That's okay, yeah. I work out of Brooklyn, New York. So we have offices in downtown Brooklyn, and then we also see clients virtually. There's three pieces kind of to the business. Nesh, there's mind, body, and soul. The mind piece is our private practice. So we do individual, couples, and family therapy. The body pieces, we have like yoga classes or yoga retreats, or just different workshops around the city, such as like mental health, meditation, and acupuncture, things like that. And then the soul pieces are wellness retreats. So we do a spring and a fall retreat every year, some international destination around the world. And yeah, that's kind of the gist of our business.
And you have a new baby.
I do. I'm sorry if you can hear her screaming in the background.
It's okay.
She's with her daddy right now.
Okay. No problem. Well, ladies, as you all know, you are allowed to chime in at any point throughout the discussion to ask any questions that you may have, anything of that nature. Please feel free to just drop it in the chat or in our question box, and we'll go ahead and get it moving. Dynesha, kind of throughout the session, people start to log in and chime in. 1 o'clock is a difficult time because, a lot of people are like still working, trying to do this on their lunch break. But we will record the session. So if anyone has to leave out, we'll have it available for replay on our YouTube channel so that everyone can still catch up and watch alongside with us. But we'll go ahead and jump right into it. So today's session is called the Causes and Cures to Combat the Waking What Ifs. In another term, kind of conquering that imposter syndrome that many of us deal with at some point in our life, or in some degree. It may not be professionally, but it may be personally. So if you suffer for any kind of morning anxiety, especially during this time frame, you're not alone. There are ways to combat both the physiological and psychological factors that contribute to it. So like I said, we have our licensed clinical social worker, Dynesha Henderson, here to share best practices to recognize when anxiety is present, how to manage it, and what to do, especially during these uncertain times. So for you, how has your life actually changed since the outbreak of the coronavirus?
Sure. I'm like, that is an intense question. I mean, it has changed completely, right? So I'm someone who goes to the gym. I can no longer go to the gym anymore. I'm someone who likes to go to church every Sunday and then have brunch with my friends after. And you can't do either of those things anymore. Down to, now me, my husband, and my baby, we're in the house all the time together. Working virtually from home, seeing clients and things like that. So it has completely changed. On top of, I don't think you know this, but I just returned from maternity leave yesterday. So that's like,
wow. Okay. I figured that 2 months, I was like, she's probably still getting into the groove of everything and then have to turn around. Were you already virtual?
Yeah. So I work full time at an agency, and then I also have our private practice. So for the private practice, we do in person and virtual. And we offer that from the beginning. So it's nothing really new for us other than transferring everybody online.
Gotcha. Okay. Anyone been opposed to it? Like they'll just wait till it's over, or everyone?
It's interesting. Yeah. So a lot of our clients early on, they're like, no, we don't want virtual. We're not interested. But now that that's the only option, I think most people have been receptive to it.
Yeah. I have a girlfriend.
It's still helpful. It's about the work.
It is, exactly.
Yeah.
I have a girlfriend. She's like, I am not doing virtual working out and training. It's just not my thing. And after a week sitting on her tail, she was like, okay, I got to get up and do something. Like, I just got to do something. And so now she's doing the virtual workouts. And she's like, this is actually not that bad. I said, I told you, you got to get it in when you can.
Exactly. Exactly.
So jumping right into the first question, what are some of the first signs of anxiety? I think a lot of times
Sure.
people will throw out, I have some anxiety, or maybe they don't even recognize it at all. But what are some of the first signs to actually like point out anxiety itself?
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the first thing that I would say is always make sure that you go and get like a medical assessment first from a doctor. Because I feel like for me, everyone, to answer the question, everyone's anxiety is different. So I don't know that there is a first sign.
Okay.
But for me, if I feel anxiety, a lot of times it might be like shortness of breath. Like I can't take deep breaths. And so could that be a lung issue? Could that be another medical issue? We want to make sure, like, obviously that is not the case first. But it can be shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, things like that. Some people say it feels like there's a brick on their chest when they wake up. I've also heard, I try to write some things down. Oh yeah, just like negative feedback loops or negative thinking. Panic attacks, that's a part of like the buildup of anxiety. So sometimes people will have panic attacks and it just hits them and they're like, oh my God, what was that? It was a buildup of anxiety. Yeah, excessive worrying. If you get into like the physical symptoms, there might be some nausea or like heart palpitations. So it looks different in everybody, but those are general symptoms that people would report.
Reporting. Okay. So so I heard you say, definitely going to get a doctor's assessment. Would that be like through your primary care doctor? Would it be going to the emergency room? What kind of doctor should you go see?
Yeah, so I would always say go to your primary care first, because that's where you can keep your records. They know you, they can keep your ongoing history, and they can really assess kind of what you may have previously, the issues you had or whatnot, and keep a record together. To me, if you're having a panic attack and you really feel like your lungs are constricting and you can't breathe, for example, then I would go to the ER or to a, what do you call the quick clinics?
Urgent care?
Yeah, like an urgent care, exactly.
Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Space Cadet.
No, you're good. Okay, all right. So what are some causes of morning anxiety, or even just like some examples of it?
Sure. I like to give people the example of a trash can. So when the trash can is empty and there's a bag in there and you have an issue with your friend, a banana peel goes in there, and then paper goes in there for another reason, and then food from dinner goes in there. It eventually piles up and rots and stinks, and it's not all from the exact same event. One was dinner, one was lunch last week. The garbage out, it's going to overflow, it's going to rot, it's going to smell bad. So yeah, that's kind of an example that I give to people.
That's good.
Say your question one more time.
No. I was saying that's really good. That's a good kind of analogy, a way to look at it. Like, so it's just a pile up of just numerous things. And so in my mind, I would view that as, so I could see how that causes anxiety, but I would view that maybe more so as like maybe on the verge of like exploding, having like an explosive moment. Is that still kind of a form of anxiety, or is that something completely different?
Once it begins to overflow, I mean, again, for everyone, it looks different. So like, I mean, anxiety can also be related to life events. So this pandemic, obviously there's this kind of looming dread, which is also a symptom of anxiety. People report like this like feeling of looming dread. But now we're actually in it, right? Because we're in a pandemic. No one that's living right now has ever been in one. What does that mean for our future? Everything has changed. So, there's deaths that are related to it. So all of those things, it could be one life event. It could be those separate pieces. Yeah, or it could be the explode into like a panic attack. So.
Okay. So just to even just get a little bit more specific, and if anyone just in case anyone that's watching has ever experienced any of these feelings, specifically now during this pandemic, what are some behaviors that you have seen that people are experiencing now during the pandemic that maybe they weren't prior to, or that are directly correlated with it?
Sure. It's hard to say. So like excessive worry, right? So I think about just like the toilet paper. It was funny before when like everyone was stocking up on the toilet paper and you couldn't get any in the stores. But I'll give you like a real example of us today. We got up this morning and we had to make a target to get cleaning supplies and things like that. We got there when they opened and there was already a line outside. Everyone was standing 6 feet apart against the wall, so that excessive worry is somewhat reality, right? But yeah, so that's my answer, is excessive worry, things like that.
Lots of worrying. Okay. Anyone else that is viewing online, if they don't mind sharing, have they been having any like stressful moments or just a lot of worrying, or anything that is kind of in correlation to some of the things that Dynesha is talking about? I know I'll raise my hand and say that I did. Yesterday was a tough day for me because I had two very close friends who had immediate family members pass away from the coronavirus. So before I was kind of treading lightly, I was being super positive. I was just kind of keeping my head down and work and, moving forward and making sure I still was social distancing and, staying at home, but not being as stressed about it, because I knew that there were other ways that I could make work and make revenue and things of that nature. But then when they passed, and just kind of talking them through it and being there for them, it made me be like, okay, this is actually really happening. Like I see it, but it's really, really, really happening. And so I definitely had like some down moments yesterday where I was like, this is absolutely crazy. Like, you're being admitted into the hospital on Monday, and by Wednesday they're gone, and no one is there with them. So it was just very sad to think about being in the hospital by yourself, and then your family is at home quarantined. So I know I personally can definitely say that. And I was like super excited. Like, I'm glad that this session is coming up shortly, because I need a little pick me up, just totally. So if anybody else on the line kind of is feeling like just, similar reactions or feelings, just wanting to just kind of get a general poll of the audience. But moving on to the next question. So what are the best ways to curb your anxiety?
And so I think my number one suggestion is to shift your thinking, right? Because we can think like about death and being alone in the hospital and our families not being able to be with us. Like we can think, oh my gosh, this pandemic has really kept me in the house and it's bad. But like, we need to also look at the good in it as well, right? I think this poses like a beautiful opportunity for families to be together, I don't know, things like that. The fact that I wrote some notes, but the fact that you get to cook meals together, that doesn't happen a lot, or sit down and eat together without someone having to go to work or running out to school, or everybody rushing all around New York City or wherever you're at. Another thing that I know everyone talks about, and they go hand in hand, but meditation and breathing. One thing that I think is important, that I find important to do, is meditate every morning. And it can look like so many different things. It's like whatever you feel comfortable with. So I always suggest people start out with like 3 minutes. Sit there quietly in your bed, sit up, don't lay down, but sit up, maybe against your wall if you have a wall behind you. Close your eyes and just deep breathe. Inhale, exhale, and just start there. If you want to add something like shifting the thinking, maybe you want to come up with a positive mantra and just repeat that over and over again. I used to do this, which I loved, and I feel like I need to get back to it now that I'm saying this, but mind-body meditation. So planking and praying at the same time. So you hold the plank and you just like pray or talk good intentions or whatever you want to call it to yourself for as long as you can. And that we call it a mind-body meditation because when your mental is stronger, your body is stronger. When your body is stronger, your mental is stronger. So holding that plank and you know, speaking that positivity at the same time, it makes you realize you're so much stronger than you think you are, you know? And each day when you do that, you see your growth of, first I could do it for 5 seconds. Now I can do it for 2 minutes.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's good. I'm gonna try that today.
Totally. It's amazing. Like
Yeah.
now in my phone, I have a reminder to do something in the morning. So when I wake up, I try not to wake up past 8 o'clock. And that's when I start my whatever it is. My morning routine is what I call it. Yeah, if I can give you a few other tips, breathing. Yeah. So one of the things that I like to do is just like inhaling for 6, exhaling for 6. If you do that 5 times, like inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, that equals 1 minute. So slowly breathe and count. Inhale for 6. Exhale for 6. You can close your eyes and just breathe into it. That's super relaxing. Yoga, getting the energy out, jumping jacks, push-ups, getting the energy out is going to decrease anxiety. And obviously I'm biased, but like talking about it, right? So where's the root? You know, where's it coming from? Figuring that out and then planning action steps after that.
Nice. We got a couple questions that came through, and you can see them too up at the top where it says Q&A.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So Cheryl said that we answered her questions. Great. Because I did go through it, but for our listeners that are on, she said about a year ago, her primary care doctor determined that she was suffering from anxiety after ruling out all physical causes through cardio and pulmonary. I don't know that one, but anyway, some testing that she got done of her shortness of breath and inability to catch a good deep breath. She referred her to some mental health professionals and never followed up because I was able to recognize when I was anxious and talking myself out of it. But the last couple of weeks is back in force and she's finding it hard to control. So she asked what she can do outside of medicine. And you just went over some great tips that we can do outside of medicine. And last year, she briefly was on Leprexo, or Lexapro, but she did not like the way that it made her feel, so her doctor advised her to stop. So I think that this can kind of lead into another question, understanding that you are a licensed provider. What is your outtake on medication? I know some therapists that are like for it, and then I know some that like to go the more holistic route. So kind of what is your outtake on medication for any kind of mental health diagnosis? Yeah.
So 100% support it. I try not to use it on my clients in my practice because I do realize that it is a tool and it is an effective tool for a lot of people. But I think in like American society, we just go to that as the fix of the problem without just like, as in therapy, we call it like sitting with the feelings, right? So, so for like my clients, what I first try and do is talk therapy, kind of figure out what list out the root of the problem, what are the things that are going on with you? And then we work with each piece, so I don't know if it's like physicality in the body that might be causing anxiety for whatever reason. I might suggest going to acupuncture. So I'll give you an example of myself. This was maybe about a year ago. I was having difficulty breathing randomly, and I was supposed to go to acupuncture one day. So I told my therapist or my acupuncturist, I said, Gina, I'm not going to come today because I'm having like high anxiety. And she was like, no, that's when you should come. Like, I can help you relieve it. So she gave me something called a heart treatment, and she did like normal needles wherever. but she put one like in my heart as well. And when I got off the table, the anxiety was gone. So I like to, like, you know, as a believer, because it's happened to me. I used to have low back pain. With acupuncture, my low back pain was cured. So I try and, you know, kind of steer my clients towards alternative options like that. You know, exercise, stretching, the daily meditation, jumping jacks at your house, you know, just get the energy out, talk therapy, as alternative options before I say medication.
I've heard wonderful things about acupuncture. I want to try it. In the moment I was like, so like getting ready to, here we go.
Oh no.
And they may or may not be open, but you know, I'm just not going to take the risk. Like, I'm like, oh, it's okay. I'll chill out. But I've definitely heard great things, especially women who are dealing with like infertility issues. I've heard that helps a lot with them. A few of my friends have done it and have successfully like had children afterwards.
Yeah, nice.
So,
I'm a believer, and I hate needles.
So during this during these in particular uncertain times, what are the best ways to have you have a sense of fear. I have a typo on here, sorry y'all. You have a sense of fear and worrying about the what ifs. What would you suggest to combat the actual anxiety as a single woman, as a single mother, or a married couple with children? Because as we know, the way to encounter them can be completely different based upon your current household, like who's in your household. The things that you all listed out are great, and they're all possible and they can be done. But I think that the external factors that are within the home can add to that. So if I was single, what could I do at home to, take away the fear or to just not feel lonely? If I was a single mom with children, like what are some things that I do? Because I can't really call on help. And then of course, being married, that in itself is always a work in progress. And then adding children to that just adds to it. So what are like just some few, like just kind of tips that you can kind of do to kind of keep your mind busy, and try to walk away and kind of curb that anxiety that you may be feeling based on those three scenarios?
Sure. So I think talking about like the individual and like maybe the single mom, I find community huge. So now we're kind of figuring out a new reality of what that looks like. But one of my favorite things to do, I moved to New York 10 years ago, and I stopped about 2 years ago, but every Tuesday night I would go from Brooklyn to Harlem for a workout class for like 1 hour. And, it was an incredible workout class on top of just like the community of people that I surrounded myself there with every Tuesday night was just awesome. So, just finding a community where you can fit in and relate. I think like using your family, if I'm feeling lonely and I'm an individual, a single woman at home, if you have the ability to call a sibling, a parent, just take these opportunities to connect and be vulnerable. Say I'm feeling really lonely right now, because a lot of times other people are feeling that way too. And just even validating that, yeah, I feel like that way, that too can often make someone feel better. So moms, maybe like a mommy community. One of my friends here in New York, I think her wellness is called Love Bliss Wellness, I believe, but she just started these new like mommy vent talks. So once a month she gets moms together, there's childcare there, and you can just kind of vent about your challenges as a mom. Thinking about families, checking in with each other. So one of the things that I like to do, and I don't do it with my own family, but I do it with my clients on a scale of 1 to 10. How are you feeling? So 1 is I'm feeling terrible. 10 is I'm feeling amazing. And they say, oh, I'm feeling like a 7 today. And you ask, okay, well, why not a 10? And that allows them to say like, oh, not a 10 because I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. You know, I'm feeling lonely and boom, there's your answers. That's why you're not feeling like a 10, and you have the reasons and where you can work, if that makes sense.
No, that's good. That's good. And even and I think I left off another kind of demographics, but just a newly or even just a married couple with no children.
Sure. Yeah, again, just like checking in with each other. And just like, I always like to use the sports reference of like, we are on the same team. You know, if we're in a partnership, then we are on the same team. So we're not trying to score baskets against each other. I'm assisting you to score the same basket.
Right.
You know? So just keeping that in mind when you're communicating in your conversations. My favorite thing this goes across the board, is message delivery. So, you know, if you can say, oh, hand me that over there, versus, hey, can you grab that for me because I'm not able to get up right now? You know, trying to think of a better example than that, but you know, just the way you deliver the message can often change the response. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. No, I love that. Ladies can drop your questions if you have any as we go through them. Because I think one of the biggest things, and I think that you probably see this a lot too, whenever we start talking about mental health and things like that, people can kind of shy away and get quiet or not participate in fear of like being vulnerable, or fear of being seen, or fear of being too emotional. I know that I suffer from that. Like, I am not the most vulnerable person when it comes to like my emotions, because I don't like to not have control of my emotions.
Sure.
And so I think that, especially kind of like you said, Niche, like during this time right now, is super important not to bottle those things up, because we don't have really too many places to let it out at. We're home in these four walls. And so I have definitely, like, my husband was like, you're just so, like, you just communicate so well these days. And I'm like, well, I don't have too many other people to talk to. One. And for two, for our own sanity, like you said, that communication piece of it really, really helps just your whole overall well-being and being home and, you know, and whatnot. But I guess I want to kind of take it to another level, because I've heard a lot of people talking about working from home, and how working from home now has turned into more of a task than actually just getting up and going into the office.
Totally.
And so what kind of suggestions do you have for people who are either struggling with, you know, the constant conference calls and the overload of kind of micromanage? I've heard a lot of people saying they're feeling very micromanaged these days, especially you know, those in like different corporations and stuff, because they just need to see their productivity. What are some ways to kind of help manage that? Because I have some people that are like, they got their schedule down pat, and some that are still struggling on really just being able to take care of themselves and still take care of work.
Sure. So my first thought is morning routine. I think for me, structure is really important. That's what keeps me, like, you know, able to like ascend versus like decline. So, you know, when I first get up in the morning, I turn on my tea, and that's the first thing I do is drink my green tea, do some meditation, you know, go out for a walk, eat my breakfast. And then when 9 o'clock hits, that's when I start my day, because that's my usual work hours. And that's when I'll open my computer, log on, check my emails or whatever. I make sure I take a break in the day. So, you know, from 12 to 1, you can be sending me emails and calling me, but I'm at lunch. and I can do whatever I want on my lunch hour because I still get that, that privilege or whatever you want to call it. Not really privilege. Right. Yeah, and then just like making sure, same idea, that you end your day. If I work 9 to 5, I'm not sending emails out and taking phone calls at 6 or 7 p.m., but I'm ending at 5, and I'll pick up tomorrow at 9 a.m. after I've taken care of myself first.
Right. No, that's good. Anyone else on the line? Are you all struggling with work schedules, setting boundaries, whether it be between work, at home? Just curious if anyone here today is dealing with that, not just the people I've been in conversation with.
I mean, even I still struggle with it.
No, it's definitely a struggle, but so it's like, I think we're going to all struggle with it because this is all new to us, but it's one thing where it's like totally impacting your just mental health because it's just that crazy. But just curious if anyone else is kind of dealing with any of the same things. And I anticipated this one to be a little bit more quiet than some of the others, because I was like, people don't like, because when we do our conferences and stuff, anytime we start talking about anything mental health, everyone like goes like this. Do you see that? Do you see that being kind of more of the norm whenever you have any kind of opportunities when you do any speaking as it relates to like mental health, where people tend to shut down a little bit more, or are they still as vulnerable in a group setting?
Sure. Because I'm going to call myself a master at it. When I first walk into a room, people are quiet and looking, and they want to see what you have to say. But I think I'll do a lot of like icebreaker activities that are related to opening up. So one of the first things that I love to do in a group setting is there's like a pie chart, and on one side of it has like what is it, like your like age, race, sex, ability, all these different categories, and it says, this pie is you. I want you to tell us like what percentage of each of these make up 100% of you. So then I have everyone share out, and they get to learn something about someone else, and that helps them to open up, or just little activities like that. But I think by mid-group session, people are engaged and feeling safe to feel vulnerable.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We have a couple of comments. Nicole said that she's struggling to just kind of cut her day off. Jatia says she's struggling. She says she likes the idea, likes the suggestion to get up in the morning and have a routine. She said, I don't want to get up early because I'm nursing a 5-month-old. So you all definitely have some likeliness with that. I forgot how that goes. Not that far ago, but once you're out of it, you are out of it. So my youngest is 5. So people ask me questions, I'm like, I don't remember. And then she also said she figured out that her environment is a big part of how I feel. So I had to make sure I cleaned up because she can't work in clutter.
Totally. Yep. Agree with that. Keeping an organized workspace as best as you can, but also just like getting outside and using social distancing too. I forgot what you just said that reminded me of to say that, but let's see.
She was just saying being in an environment that's not like cluttered
is a big part of how I feel. Exactly. And so just like getting that fresh air, and like even though it's cloudy, sunlight is still coming through, so doing that as part of your change of environment as well is important.
Nice. Ladies, if you have any more questions, now is the time to ask our professional on the line, because I'm pretty much done with my questions, but I did want to give you the opportunity to tell us about some of the things that you're currently working on, how everyone can connect with you if they're interested in any, because with your private practice, do you take virtual? Are you still accepting virtual clients?
We are. So it's myself. I have another Black female therapist. Her name is Leanna. And then I
Okay.
have a white male. His name is Joe.
Okay.
We've all been working together for at least 3 years now, and
Nice.
they're both also incredible. So I'm not
Nice.
taking clients right now,
Okay.
but if you reach out to us, I always do people, we offer a free 30-minute consultation to just kind of discuss your presenting problems, tell you how our practice works, see if you're a good match, and if we are, then we can discuss the other clinicians and if that person would feel comfortable with them.
Okay.
So yes, we are taking clients. You can reach us at 917-791-2350. That's our business line. You can call that or text that to set up a consultation. You can also find us on Instagram at Nesh_BK. And what else? Yeah, we're going to be doing, it's questionable right now, so we're not allowing anyone else to sign up, but we had a wellness retreat to Bali planned at the end of August to September, but it's kind of on hold, so we're not accepting any new clients.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're going to just be kind of doing some online workshops like these throughout the coming weeks and months. So you can, go to our Instagram page and keep updated on, what kind of things we can help to support our community with.
Nice. Well, I don't see any other questions that have come through. I appreciate you taking some time on this lovely Tuesday and dropping some great gems. I will be doing some plank. What was it called?
Plank and pray.
Plank and pray. I like that. I feel like I'm a pretty good planker, so let's see how long I can do it while talking. I can count in plank because I have to at the gym, but let's see if I can actually get a prayer out. So I think that's good. That was a really, really good one. And waking up in the morning and kind of just pressing our backs against the wall and just kind of having that meditative moment. That was a good suggestion as well. So I appreciate it. I'm sure our viewers do too as well. Be safe. Take care of that new baby.
Will do.
A couple of ladies are coming through saying thank you as well.
Thank you
Other than that, I think we're pretty much going to wrap up today, and you have a good remainder of your quarantine.
Yeah, you too. Thanks so much.
All right. Bye.
Peace to you guys.